We just got a huge new Quest 3 update that unlocks some awesome new features, as well as some big announcements from Meta that will change the future of the Quest headsets. And on top of that, we also had some insane VR game news that you really don't want to miss. So let's dive right into it. And the first thing that you've probably already noticed is that the new navigator interface is now permanently set as your default in your operating system. So that means that it is now not possible anymore to turn it back into the old school menu. But another feature that came with this that a lot of people don't know about is the integration of the so-called Direct TV. And this is actually quite a big deal, because this now turns your headset into a full-on television, and that completely for free. Now, for those unfamiliar, Meta's official release of this application means that you will be able to watch over 150 live channels, including 35 dedicated to sports, as well as a bunch of shows and movies without spending a single cent. So honestly, it is kind of a nice surprise to see this being introduced, especially with the overall market being so saturated right now with all those paid-to-watch options out there. And to access it, you can simply find it under the Meta Horizon TV application and log in from there. Or alternatively, you could also choose to download it from the Meta Store instead, if you don't like the interface of Meta's own Horizon TV. But one big downside is that it is sadly not available yet worldwide. So depending on your region, you might not have access to it. Although, it is definitely recommended to check back in on this every now and then, since they might add global support in the near future. But moving on. Another nice improvement that came with this update is that you're now capable of seeing capture markers when you're taking a screenshot or video. And to quickly explain this, when you want to film your gameplay when you're inside virtual reality, then the built-in recording features from Meta will often crop your frame drastically, making your videos afterwards look a lot different from what you were expecting. But now, this problem is basically fixed, because with the introduction of capture markers, it will now give you a quick outline before a screenshot gets taken, or all the time during your recording. And in that way, you can exactly see what falls inside of your frame and what part of the action gets cut out. But some other smaller improvements that you might have missed is that grabbing your panels with hand tracking has now drastically been improved. So when you grab those corners now, you will now see that not only the responses are a lot quicker and smoother, but it will now also give you fewer accidental releases, which could get pretty annoying in the past. And while talking about improvements, another nice change is that you can now walk around and exit your VR space without constantly being bombarded with some pass-through dialogue interruptions. Because beforehand, whenever you left your play area, your headset would send you multiple notifications that you have to return to your starting position. But that is now a thing of the past. But we also had some bad news, and that is specifically when it comes to the price of the Quest headsets itself. Now, what exactly happened is that Mark Zuckerberg officially announced that the cost of both the Quest 3 as well as the Quest 3S are being increased quite significantly. And while for the 3S models, this means that you will see an increase of about $50. The base Meta Quest 3, on the other hand, will now be up $100 more, making it now $600 in total. And of course, this is mainly due to the global surge in prices for critical opponents in tech in general. But if you're thinking of buying a Quest 3 right now, then that might make it a bit complicated. But just keep in mind though, that at launch, the original Quest 3 model was actually $650. So while it did get a price increase again, it is technically still cheaper than it was all the way back then. And moving on, we also got some insane VR game news that you really don't want to miss. But before we get into that, let's first have a quick word from the company that made this video possible. Because none other than Cat VR, who are known for creating VR treadmills that look like they come straight out of Ready Player One, are once again taking virtual reality to the next level. Because while we are normally limited by the boundary system inside our VR experiences, it is Cat VR that has created these VR treadmills that let you run and jump without any limitation. And since their most recent version, which is known as the C2 Plus Enhanced, is compatible with every VR headset that you can think of, it is also often considered as the dream upgrade for any VR user. And they even go so far that it has things like haptic feedback built into it, as well as a vehicle hub, which will make it feel even more realistic when you're racing on a track or flying through the sky. And as a cherry on top, you can also use the code VRelity for a whopping $130 off on your entire purchase. So for those who are interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. And that gets us to the VR game news. And starting it off with one of the most hyped releases yet is none other than the full release of Forefront. And this is probably best described as Battlefield for VR, since in it, you will engage in massive 32-player battles with crossplay for other platforms. But unlike most first-person shooters, in here, you can also take control over vehicles, such as flying in helicopters and driving around in tanks, or even hopping on your very own boat. And for a while, the developers of Triangle Factory have been polishing and balancing this game up in every aspect. And now that they have fully released their game with their so-called 1.0 update, they have also added in a brand new map known as Clearwater and a bunch of cool new items such as a combat bow and a drone gadget. And while this game quickly became one of my favorites, it is good to keep in mind that the skill level is quite hardcore, so don't expect this one to be easy. And next up, finally around the corner, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Empire City. Now, by the time you're watching this, you might already have played it yourself. And if you have somehow missed it, the Empire City is basically the first official VR game that brings the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise into virtual reality. And overall, this hack and slash action game feels quite similar to something like the popular Deadpool VR in both its combat and its color graphic art style. And it is also good to note that it is available for both the Quest headsets and PC VR. But moving on, we also got some VR game news related to the new free additions to the Horizon Plus catalog. And those are none other than Vacation Simulator, Prison Boss Prohibition VR, and Breachers. So if you already have Horizon Plus on your Quest, then you will now also have access to these 3 games completely for free. And next up, we also got the release of a brand new DLC for the popular VR simulation game known as Scan or Scam. Now in this goofy cartoon style-like experience, you will be running your very own convenience store with some shady things happening all the time. And it is your goal to keep your business running without getting caught in the meantime. And now, with their new DLC, you'll now be able to brew your own strange recipes, with some of them being worth quite a lot and others not so much. And they also introduced a new wanted mechanic, which will invite a hitman that will give you a secret mission and it will have you try to eliminate your targets so that you can turn them in for a reward. But another nice addition is that they also added in a free update, which comes with some new drink and food stands, such as for hot dogs and cotton candy, as well as introducing a so-called Bad Special burger. But maybe the biggest VR game news of all was the release of Little Nightmares VR Altered Echoes. And this is a very intense puzzle horror adventure that is not for the faint of heart, because in it, you will be playing the role of a very small protagonist who's trying to navigate themselves through a series of dark environments, while also trying to evade being captured by some of these twisted pursuers. And while the premise is quite simple, in virtual reality, these high-stakes creepy effects and nerve-wracking audio really add a whole other layer to it. And yes, while the gameplay itself might be nothing groundbreaking, it stays truly faithful to their own series, which is already pretty good overall. So if you are brave enough and don't mind the jump scares, then you will definitely want to check this one out. But that isn't all, because there are also some other must-play VR games on the Quest headsets that you have to play. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.